Guys, can you believe Clint Eastwood is 94 years old and still making movies? I mean, that's incredible. I think most of us would wish to have that type of ability and that type of energy at 94 years old to still be pumping out movies, and Clint Eastwood's work ethic has to be commended, so kudos to him. My name is Nova, guys, this is Film Express, and today we're going to be talking about the new Clint Eastwood film, Juror number 2. Let's see what I thought of it. Guys, Clint Eastwood has been pumping out films nonstop, but I did not have any idea he was releasing a film in 24, so Juror number 2 kind of slid into my radar fully as a surprise. I saw a bunch of solid reviews kind of across the board, I'll be honest, so I was really curious to check it out myself. If I have to be honest, I think the concept of Juror number 2 is a home run, and I think the less you know about it, the better. It's just about a trial and the jury selection, but there's a lot of nuance there to the story. I really do think that the concept here was a smash hit. It's just really unfortunate that this concept was matched with what I believe to be super bland execution. This is an interesting and morally complex setup, but I really do feel like it revealed its hand way too quickly, and that's a big problem in execution for me. And I do think that it barely uses dramatic irony to any good effect within the story, and the story really called for it. And dramatic irony, I believe, is one of the more powerful writing and narrative techniques that we can use, but it really did feel like the writer was kind of going for a more surface level, what you see is what you get type of story, which is kind of unfortunate. I feel like this is a screenplay that was ultimately a bit of a first draft. We're presented with a lot of moral conundrums, this is a morally complex story at its core, but we're not really given much time to dwell on these, and we're not really given much depth to these ideas. I really thought that it took the easy way out, especially on an ending that could have been a huge, thought-provoking, water cooler moment for everybody, and I really think that they missed the mark there. And you know what, I'll be honest, in terms of the directorial effort, no shade to Clint Eastwood. I understand he's in his later years, so it must not be easy for him to be directing this and managing such a big scale production. This was kind of a very basic directorial approach. It was just mostly cameras on tripods capturing scenes in very basic ways. I didn't really think that it was too cinematic. It kind of feels like a TV movie at the end of the day, and we could argue that it essentially is. There's a lot of Hollywood power here, so I really expected better in that sense. We're talking about a legal trial in the justice system, and of course the first shot of the film is opening on the main character's wife, and she's blindfolded, and this is alluding to blind justice, of course. I think these obvious metaphors are just so easy, and I think a lot of writers and directors really rely on them as a crutch. I think we can do much better in terms of metaphors and imagery that we can relate to our audiences. I think the blind justice thing is the most antiquated trope we have, so I really think that it did not fit the mark here. Otherwise, there's not really a social commentary. There's not really any commentary on the justice system outside of that small image and the small discussions in the trial. There's no real commentary on murderers or guilt and how guilt can manifest itself. Like, I really found nothing here, and that sounds really harsh, but it's because the film was just dwelling on that surface level concept of what if somebody in the jury was involved in the event that happened. It's a great concept. There's so much you could do there. The film reveals everything right at the beginning, kind of a spoiler alert, and you're really not left much time to think of any other possibilities, right? For me, I imagined this plot, but I just imagined the whole narrative being more effective if we didn't know that this main character was the killer. We would go through the trial and see all these different perspectives, like a Rashomon style story, and the evidence obviously could maybe point to certain things, and the audience could either make their own conclusion, or you could have that twist reveal in the third act. There's all these moments in the film where he fumbles investigation papers on purpose, or he drops a coin during the trial by accident or purpose to kind of avoid getting looked at, and all these moments, they felt so forced, and they felt like Nicholas Hoult was kind of like winking at the screen as he was doing them. I really think that as a character who's having manifestations of guilt, it could not be more obvious. It was just telegraphed, and it was just like a blatant red flag, like there's no other alternative, because you've already given the audience the information, and the characters acting out that information and that guilt every 2 seconds. You're acting shifty-eyed in every scene, you're acting sketchy, you're giving sketchy answers. Like, it's just so obvious. If we got that reveal in the second half, or maybe in the third act of the film, it could recontextualize the whole trial that we watched, and then it could recontextualize his whole actions throughout the trial. All these little moments that he acted shady and sketchy, they would have a different meaning now. This could also play almost like a Kaiser Soze, a Usual Suspects moment, where by the end of the film, everything that Kevin Spacey's character said had a whole different meaning. And sure, The Usual Suspects is a flawed film, we don't have to get into that, but that twist at the time, it shook Hollywood, it shook the industry, it shook audiences, because they calculated those reveals in a way that was narratively intelligent, and it considered your audience's intelligence as well, but it also is aware of every type of twist and every type of other story that was out there, so that it tried to do something different. Juror number 2, with a concept so powerful, ended up becoming the most bland, cliche, run-of-the-mill, basic story, which ultimately is so discouraging for me, because one more draft of this screenplay could have made this an impeccable film. For me, it could have been one of the best films in years. It has the makings of 12 Angry Men or Anatomy of a Fall or something like that, but it falls short. Execution is so bland on the screenplay, and unfortunately with Eastwood's direction. Unfortunately, I wasn't sold on this from the start to the finish. It's like the whole film was just tunnel vision. From the script to the way it was directed, it all just had one outcome. There was no other way that this is gonna end. As soon as you kind of figure it out, they kind of just take you by the hand and guide you there with no thrills. If Eastwood's name was not attached to this, I could not tell you who directed this. I couldn't tell you the difference between the directorial style of this film or the 3 worst episodes of any Netflix or Apple TV show that you can pick right off the bat. A little bit more TLC, a little bit more tender love and care into scripts and concepts and stories could go such a long way in this industry. But this industry has now become this type of market where they buy scripts based on a concept and they rush it to production, and no one is reading the script until cameras are rolling. And trust me, I've been there. I'm in this industry on the outskirts, but I'm still in there. It's just really unfortunate because we're consistently getting subpar films in 2024, and a little bit of rewriting, a little bit of consciousness in narrative structure would go such a long way. So I really hope that me expressing this kind of gets your brain thinking about the ways you could change this film, or maybe any other film that you disliked and you thought had problems, because I think a little bit more critical thinking with screenplays and the films that we watch could raise our standards as an audience, as people, because right now at this rate, I really think that even if the greats like Eastwood are putting stuff like this out there, and Francis Ford Coppola is putting out Megalopolis out there, then it really seems like the industry is kind of in a bad place. But luckily, we did have Scorsese at 82 years old direct one of the more energetic and sophisticated films of his career last year with Killers of the Flower Moon. So there's still hope out there. There's still great artists out there, great scripts being written and great directors directing them, but we need more of them and we need to raise our standards. So I hope you guys agree with my fixes. Do you disagree? Did you like The Juror 2? Let's talk about it, guys. Please like, please subscribe. This is Film Express, and I hope to catch you guys on the next review. Talk to you later.